Speak, listen, hub. Talk show.
My name is Mason Carter. I'm 17 years old, and I live in a small town called Greendale. Nothing special ever happens here. Every day feels the same. The streets are quiet, the shops are old, and people talk about the same boring things. I don't like it here. I feel like I don't belong. Everything feels stuck, like the town is asleep and never wakes up. It was Tuesday, I think. Or maybe Wednesday. I didn't go to school that morning. I was tired of sitting in class, listening to boring teachers. I felt heavy, like my body didn't want to move. I went to a small diner instead. It's called Angie's. The lights are a little broken, and the place smells like old coffee, but I like it. Donna, the waitress, is nice. She has short gray hair and always wears the same blue apron. She gives me coffee and doesn't ask questions. That's good, because I don't like talking much. I sat in my usual seat by the window. I had my notebook with me. I like drawing. Sometimes I draw people, trees, or just strange shapes. It helps me think. It helps me feel like I'm still part of something real. That's when I saw Brooke walk in. Brooke Mitchell is a girl from my school. She's quiet and calm. She doesn't talk a lot, but when she looks at you, it feels like she sees your true self. Not many people do that. I think she's different. She doesn't try to be popular, and she doesn't pretend to be someone else. That's rare around here. She's always reading books or listening to music with her big headphones. I don't know much about her, but I want to. She sat at the counter and ordered hot chocolate. I watched her from my table. She didn't see me. She just sat there quietly, holding her cup with both hands. Her hair fell over her shoulder, and she moved it behind her ear. She looked peaceful. I kept looking. I didn't know why. Maybe I wanted to talk to her. Maybe I was just lonely. Maybe both. We didn't talk that day. She finished her drink and left. I stayed there, thinking about her. I wondered where she was going, what she was thinking. Then I walked around the town. I passed the school, the grocery store, and the train tracks. Everything looked the same as always. Even the birds seemed to fly in the same direction every day. I went to the lake and sat by the water. I picked up small stones and threw them. The sound helped me feel calm. Sometimes I feel very tired, even though I'm young. Like I've already lived too many boring days. But when I think about small things like drawing or Brooke's quiet smile, I feel a little better. Maybe tomorrow will be different. Maybe not. But I'll keep looking for something real. Because even in a place like Greendale, maybe something good can still happen. The next day, I actually went to school. I didn't really want to, but something about seeing Brooke at the diner stayed in my head. I thought maybe I'd see her again. Maybe she'd talk to me. Maybe something new would happen. I wasn't sure, but I felt a little more awake than usual. I sat in the back of English class, near the window. Mr. Bowman was talking about poetry. I wasn't really listening. I like poems sometimes, but only the sad ones that sound real. I kept looking toward the door, hoping she'd walk in. And then she did. She came in a few minutes late, carrying her bag and a book. She walked quietly to her seat, 2 rows in front of me. I watched the way her hair moved when she sat down. She didn't look back. Still, just seeing her there made my day feel different. It was like the colors in the room were brighter somehow. After class, I packed my things slowly. I hoped we'd walk out at the same time. She was at her locker, pulling out a notebook. I walked past and tried to look casual. She looked up and saw me. I think she did, anyway. She gave me a small smile, not a big one, just enough to make me feel like the ground wasn't so heavy anymore. At lunch, I sat by myself like always. I opened my notebook and drew again, not shapes this time, but faces. I tried to draw Brooke's face from memory. It didn't look right. I'm not that good at details. But I kept trying. I wanted to get it right. Later that day, I was walking home when I heard someone say my name. I turned around, and there she was. "Hey, Mason, right?" she said. Her voice was soft, but clear. Like a song you knew you've heard before but can't remember where. My heart was beating fast, but I tried to act normal. "Yeah. You're Brooke," I said. She smiled. A real one this time. "I saw your drawings in class. You're really good." I didn't know what to say. No one ever says that to me. "Thanks," I said. "I just draw stuff." "Well, they're nice. Different." We walked for a while. Just talked about nothing, classes, teachers, music. She liked old songs, the kind with guitars and soft voices. I told her about drawing in the lake. I didn't tell her, but it was the best talk I'd had in a long time. Maybe she's not just a quiet girl with hot chocolate. Maybe she's a light in this quiet, heavy world. That evening, I sat in my room with my notebook on my lap. I couldn't stop thinking about Brooke. Her smile, her quiet voice, the way she looked at me like she really saw me. It was strange, but nice. I wanted to know more about her. I opened my notebook and tried to draw her again. This time, I added more details for her soft eyes, the way her hair fell around her face. I didn't know if it looked like her, but I tried my best. Drawing helped me calm down and think clearly. Outside, the wind was strong. It blew leaves across the street and made the old trees move like they were dancing. I heard the sound of paper rustling near my window. I looked out and saw a few loose pages from a notebook flying down the street. They looked like they were chasing the wind. I thought about how those pages were like me, trying to find a place to go, trying to find where they belong. I felt a little lost, too. Sometimes, I wish I could just grab those pages and hold them, tell them everything would be okay. But they kept flying away, faster and faster, until they disappeared around the corner. The next day at school, I noticed Brooke again. She was sitting in the library, reading a book with a serious face. I wanted to go talk to her but didn't know what to say. Instead, I stayed close, watching her quietly. Later, I found myself walking by the library after class. I saw her standing outside, holding a small notebook. She looked nervous, like she wanted to say something but wasn't sure how. I walked over. "Hey, Brooke," I said. She smiled. "Hey, Mason." Then she held out the notebook to me. "I found this on the ground yesterday. I think it belongs to you." I took it and looked inside. It was my notebook. Some pages were torn and wrinkled, but most of my drawings and notes were still there. "Thank you," I said, feeling grateful. I must have dropped it without noticing. She looked at me with kind eyes. "Your drawings are good. You should keep drawing. Don't stop." Her words made my heart beat faster. It felt like she really believed in me. We talked for a few minutes. She told me about her favorite books and music. I told her about my dreams to be an artist someday. It was the first time I told anyone that. Before we left, she said, "Maybe we can draw together sometime." I smiled. "I'd like that." As I walked home, I thought about the flying pages and how Brooke helped me find mine again. Maybe, just maybe, I'm not as lost as I thought. After that day, Brooke and I started spending more time together. It wasn't anything big or loud, just small, quiet moments that felt important. We would meet at the diner after school or sit by the lake and talk about simple things. It felt easy to be with her. One afternoon, we were sitting by the water. The sky was gray and a little cold, but the lake was calm. Brooke had her notebook with her, and I had my sketchbook. We didn't need to talk much. Sometimes, we just watched the water and listened to the wind. Brooke broke the silence. "Do you ever feel like you don't belong here?" she asked quietly. I looked at her and nodded. "All the time. This town feels too small for big dreams." She smiled softly. "Yeah, me too. Sometimes I want to leave, go somewhere new." I thought about that. Leaving Greendale sounded like a good idea. Maybe then, I wouldn't feel stuck all the time. We talked about what we wanted for the future. Brooke wanted to study literature or art somewhere far away. I told her I wanted to be an artist and maybe move to a big city where I could draw and paint for a living. It was strange to say these things out loud. Before Brooke, I didn't really talk about my dreams. It was like I was afraid they would disappear if I said them. We stayed by the lake until the sun started to go down. The sky turned pink and orange, and the water reflected the colors like a mirror. It was one of those rare moments when everything feels perfect, even if only for a little while. Brooke looked at me and said, "I'm glad we met, Mason. You make this place feel a little less lonely." I smiled back. "Me too, Brooke." Days passed, and we saw each other often. School didn't seem so bad anymore, because I had someone to talk to. Sometimes, we would study together or share music. Brooke liked old songs from the 60s and 70s, and I started to like them too. One day, Donna, the waitress at Angie's, asked if we wanted some free coffee. She smiled and said, "You two look happy these days." I laughed a little and said, "Yeah, it's nice to have a friend." Brooke nodded. Friends are important. But not everything was easy. Sometimes, I felt nervous around her. I wanted to say more but didn't know how. I wondered if she liked me the same way I liked her. What if I ruined things by saying too much? One afternoon, Brooke invited me to her house. It was a small place with books everywhere and paintings on the walls. Her room was full of colors and drawings. I felt welcome there. She showed me a painting she made of the lake. It was beautiful and calm, just like that quiet afternoon we spent together. I told her, "You're really talented." She smiled and said, "Thanks. Maybe one day, we'll make art together." I wanted that more than anything. As I walked home that day, I felt hopeful. Maybe the quiet moments with Brooke were the start of something new, something real. Not everything stayed easy and calm. Sometimes, things got complicated. I started to notice that Brooke seemed worried about something, but she didn't want to talk about it. Her smile wasn't as bright, and sometimes she looked far away, like she was carrying a heavy secret. One day, I asked her if she was okay. She looked at me quietly and said, "There are things I can't tell you yet. Maybe later." I wanted to understand, but I didn't want to push. I knew everyone has secrets, and some are hard to share. A few weeks later, things got worse. Brooke stopped coming to the diner and didn't answer my messages. I felt lost again. It was like the light in my life went out. I waited by the lake, hoping she would come. The wind was colder now, and the days were shorter. I threw stones into the water, wishing she was there. One afternoon, I saw her walking down the street. She looked tired and sad. I ran to her. "Brooke," I said. She stopped and looked at me. "Hey, Mason." We sat on a bench near the park. She told me she was having problems at home. Her parents didn't understand her dreams or her quiet nature. They wanted her to follow a different path, one she didn't want. I listened and held her hand. I wanted to help, but I didn't know how. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about her. I felt scared for Brooke. I wanted to protect her from the shadows in her life. But I also felt strong. Because even when things are hard, I knew we had each other. That made a difference. I wrote in my notebook about Brooke and her struggles. Writing helped me make sense of my feelings. I drew pictures of us sitting by the lake, surrounded by light, even if the world outside was dark. The next day, I went to school with new hope. I wanted to be there for Brooke, no matter what. We didn't talk much in class, but when I saw her in the hallway, I smiled and she smiled back. It was enough for now. Sometimes, love isn't about big words or grand actions. Sometimes, it's about quiet support, being there when no one else is. I promised myself I wouldn't give up on Brooke. Not now. Not ever. Because sometimes, the strongest love is the one that stands in the shadows, waiting to shine. Days passed slowly after that. Brooke and I stayed close, but things were still hard for her. Her parents didn't want to understand her, and that made Brooke sad. I saw how much she struggled, and it hurt me to see her like that. One afternoon, we sat on a bench near the lake. The sky was clear, and the sun was warm. Brooke looked at me and said, "Mason, I don't know what to do. My parents want me to give up my dreams. They want me to stay here and live a life I don't want." I listened carefully. I wanted to say something to make her feel better, but I didn't know what words were right. "I want to be an artist," she said, "but they say it's not a real job. They want me to study business or something safe." I nodded. I understand. My parents want me to work at my dad's store, but I want to do more. I want to be free. Brooke looked at me with hope in her eyes. "Maybe one day, we can leave this town together. Go somewhere new, where people believe in us." I smiled. Yes, maybe we can. For the first time, we talked about our dreams out loud. It felt good to share them with someone who understood. But I also knew that leaving wasn't easy. We had to make decisions, and those decisions could change everything. At school, I started working harder. I wanted to prove to my parents and to myself that I could make something of my life. Brooke did the same. We encouraged each other, even when things were difficult. Sometimes, we stayed up late, talking about art, music, and the future. We planned trips to cities we wanted to visit. We imagined what our lives could be like if we were free to follow our hearts. But deep inside, I was scared. What if our dreams didn't come true? What if we had to stay in Greendale forever? One evening, Brooke gave me a small drawing. It was a picture of two people standing on a hill, watching the sun set. The words "together, anywhere" were written below. I looked at her and said, "I promise, we'll find a way." She smiled, and for a moment, the worries disappeared. That night, I wrote in my notebook about hope and courage. I drew pictures of open roads and bright skies. I told myself that no matter what, I wouldn't stop dreaming. Because dreams are the only thing that keep us moving forward. And with Brooke by my side, maybe those dreams could become real. At first, everything felt like it was getting better. Brooke and I were talking more, dreaming more, even laughing sometimes. We still had problems at home and school, but we had each other, and that made it easier. But good days don't always last forever. One Friday afternoon, I walked into the diner and saw Brooke sitting alone. She looked different. Her eyes were red, and her hands were shaking a little. I rushed over to her. "Brooke, what's wrong?" I asked. She looked up at me and tried to smile, but it wasn't real. "My parents found my sketchbook," she said quietly. I sat down across from her. "What did they say?" "They said it's a waste of time. They said I'm throwing away my future. My dad told me I had to stop talking to you too." That last part hit me hard. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. "They think you're a distraction," she whispered. I didn't know what to say. I felt angry, confused, and a little scared. We sat in silence for a moment, just looking at each other. The quiet in the diner felt too heavy. "Are you going to stop seeing me?" I finally asked. "No," she said quickly. "Never. But they might make things harder. They already said I can't go out after school anymore." I nodded slowly. "Then we'll find another way." From that day, everything became more complicated. We couldn't meet after school like before. Brooke had to go straight home. We started passing notes during class, and sometimes we talked for just 5 minutes in the hallway. It was never enough, but it was all we had. The distance started to hurt. I missed her. I missed our long talks and quiet moments by the lake. I missed seeing her smile without fear. One night, I climbed out of my window and walked to her street. I didn't get too close, I just stood across from her house, looking at the light in her window. I wanted to protect her, to tell her she wasn't alone, even if I couldn't be beside her. Brooke sent me a message the next morning. "I saw you outside last night. Thank you." I smiled when I read it. Even a small connection like that made me feel closer to her. But deep down, I knew something was changing. The pressure was building. Her parents were pushing harder. We were both getting tired. It was like trying to hold on to sunlight with closed fists. No matter how hard you try, some of it slips away. Still, we didn't give up. We promised each other that no matter what happened, We would keep going. For our dreams. For our future. For us. Because love isn't just about happiness. It's also about fighting for what you believe in even when it feels like the world is against you. Winter came early that year. The air was cold, and the trees were bare. Everything looked gray. That's how I felt, too, cold and empty inside. Brooke and I were trying to hold on. We still passed notes in school and sent late-night texts. But something had changed. We were tired. Sad. Stressed. The silence between us started to grow louder. One afternoon, we met secretly at the old train station outside town. It was a place no one really visited anymore. We sat on the edge of the platform, our legs hanging down, not saying much at first. "I can't breathe at home," Brooke said finally, looking out at the trees. "They check my phone now. They follow me after school. It's like I'm a prisoner." I looked at her face. She looked smaller, like she was shrinking under all the pressure. "I'm so sorry," I said, not knowing what else to say. "You don't deserve this." She gave me a weak smile. "You're the only good thing in my life right now." I wanted to hug her, to hold her forever, but I didn't. We just sat there, side by side, watching the cold wind blow the dead leaves. After a while, I said something I had been thinking for weeks. "Brooke, what if we ran away?" She turned her head quickly. "What?" "I mean it. We could leave. Go to a city. Start fresh. I'll get a job. You could make art. We could live in a small room. We'd be free." For a second, she said nothing. Then she laughed softly, but not in a happy way. "Mason, I dream about that every day," she said. "But how would we do it? We have no money. No car. We're just kids." "We won't always be kids," I said. "But I can't keep watching you suffer like this. It's killing me." She took my hand, and for a moment, everything felt still. Safe. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I'm scared I'll lose everything." I looked into her eyes. "You already are." That night, we both went home with heavy hearts. I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the wind and wondering if love was enough. If it could save her. Save us. The next day, I didn't see Brooke at school. Or the day after that. On the third day, I got a short message from her. "They're sending me to live with my aunt. In another town. Tomorrow." My heart dropped. I ran to her house that night and threw small stones at her window. When she opened it and saw me, her eyes filled with tears. We didn't speak. We just looked at each other. Everything we wanted to say was already written in our hearts. That was the moment I knew if I didn't do something now, I might lose her forever. And that's when I made my choice. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Brooke was leaving the next day, and I knew it wasn't just a short visit. Her parents were sending her away because they couldn't control her anymore. And if she left, we might never see each other again. I sat by my window with my jacket on and a backpack at my feet. Inside were a few clothes, my notebook, and a photo of Brooke and me from the fall. We had taken it with my old phone by the lake. She was smiling in the picture, the kind of smile I hadn't seen in weeks. At 4:30 a.m., I sent her a message, "Meet me at the train station. If you still want to leave, I'll be there." I didn't wait for a reply. I just left. The streets were silent. Cold air hit my face, but I didn't care. My heart was beating fast from fear, from excitement, from love. I walked quickly, thinking about what we were doing. It was crazy. It was risky. But it felt right. When I reached the train station, the sky was turning light blue. The sun was coming, but it wasn't warm yet. I sat on the same spot where we had talked before and waited. For 10 minutes, nothing. Then I heard footsteps. I turned and saw her, Brooke, in a hoodie and jeans, holding a small backpack. Her face was pale, but her eyes were strong. "You really came," I said, standing up. "So did you," she said softly. We stood there for a moment, both shaking from cold or nerves, maybe both. Then she walked to me and hugged me tight. I could feel her heart beating fast, just like mine. "I don't know where we're going," she whispered, "but I trust you." "We'll figure it out," I said. Together. We bought 2 tickets with the little money I had saved. Not far, just a town 2 hours away. Enough to disappear for now. Enough to breathe. On the train, we sat by the window. The sun was rising higher now, and light spilled across Brooke's face. For the first time in a long time, she looked peaceful. "I'm scared," she said quietly. "I am too," I replied. "But it's better than staying." She nodded and held my hand. The train started to move, and we watched as Greendale slowly disappeared behind us. The small town with its small mines, where everything stayed the same, it was fading away. We didn't talk much during the ride. We didn't need to. We had made a choice. We had taken a risk. I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't know if we'd find a job, a place to live, or even if we'd be okay. But I knew this, we had each other. And sometimes, love and a little courage is all you need to start again. The train stopped in a town called Maple Hollow. I had never been there before. It was small, like Greendale, but different. The streets were wider, the people seemed friendlier, and there were trees everywhere, tall ones that moved softly in the wind. It felt like we were starting a story in a new book. Brooke and I didn't know what to do at first. We walked through the town with our backpacks, looking for a place to sit and think. We found a little park with wooden benches and an empty playground. We sat there, tired and quiet. "What now?" Brooke asked, her voice soft. I looked around. We find a place to stay. Maybe a cheap motel. And then we look for jobs. She nodded. Okay. We found a small motel near the highway. The man at the desk looked surprised to see two teenagers alone, but I told him we were traveling for family. He didn't ask questions. We paid for one night. That's all we could afford. The room was small. One bed, a little table, and an old TV. But to us, it was freedom. It was ours. That evening, we walked around the town. We asked about work in cafes, shops, even a gas station. Most people said no, but one woman at a bookstore said maybe she could use help cleaning on weekends. It wasn't much, but it was something. Back at the motel, we ate instant noodles and shared stories. We laughed for the first time in days. Real laughs, not nervous ones. I watched Brooke smile, and I knew we made the right choice. The next morning, I woke up early and looked out the window. The sky was big and clear. A soft orange light filled the room. Brooke was still asleep, her head resting on my shoulder. I thought about everything we had been through. The quiet pain of Greendale. The fear of losing her. The risk we took by running away. And now, this our new beginning. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Maybe it would be hard. Maybe we'd struggle. But we had something that no one could take, hope. Brooke woke up slowly and looked at me. "Are you okay?" she asked. I smiled. "Yeah, I think I am." She sat up and stretched. "It's weird. I'm scared, but I'm happy too." "Same," I said. "But we're here. We made it." She nodded. "And we'll keep going." We packed our bags again and checked out of the motel. The air was fresh, and the world felt bigger. As we walked down the street together, holding hands, I looked up at the sky. It was open. Wide. Full of light. And I knew, deep in my heart, that even if we didn't have much, we had each other. We had a story worth living. And we weren't going back. Not now. Not ever.